There's where we are.
And we are not live in the ClickFunnels group. Oh, this is so much fun. So, for the last however many 6 weeks, I think we've been doing this now. Madison has been trying to go live into the ClickFunnels official group. She got it to work the other day on her call with Tony Barnett. Got it to stream into the ClickFunnels group, and now today, for some reason, we got blocked again. So we will be sharing this into the group as a replay, apparently after we are done. So once again, the tech goblins are coming after us, but we've also found that it is very, very difficult to get any of these streaming softwares to stream into the ClickFunnels groups or any Facebook group anymore. And so one of these weeks, we might actually give up on that and just tell everybody they're going to get the replay after the fact. But somebody reached out yesterday after I posted it in the ClickFunnels official group and said that it's 3 a.m. in the morning down in Australia where he lives, and he wouldn't be able to make the show live, and he'd catch it on the replay. And I said, well,
Perfect. That might be all you get.
I said the problem is we only share the really good stuff on the live, not on the replay. So, and I don't think he believed me, but
we're still trying. I'm still working on it.
it. Oh, you're still working on trying to stream it over there?
Still working on it. We'll see if
or we'll just do it. We'll try it again next week. Yeah. Well, I think I think in the past what Madison had done is once it starts playing, then she shared it live once it was already playing into the group as well. So that's another technique that somebody might try. But again, as always, if you guys have a technique for being able to stream into Facebook groups, we've tried just about every software that we can think of out there to get it to work. I think probably a total of at least half a dozen of them, and none of us have been able to get it to work, including the employees of ClickFunnels who do not stream directly into their own group because they can't figure out how to do it. So we should probably just quit yammering on about that and get down to talking about some ClickFunnels stuff instead of all of our tech woes.
Yeah, I think so.
Or not. So, and Madison, you were going to start off today sharing about something that in 1.0
absolutely hate.
No, in 1.0 I loved it dearly because I had to write it with my own CSS code. And now in 2.0, we're talking about Flex containers. In 2.0, when they first came out, I thought they were great. They were a little wonky at first. They got all the bugs worked out on that. There is one still in there I will point out when we get to it. But they have done so many improvements to the ClickFunnels editor that I personally hardly ever use Flex containers anymore. So Madison's going to show us an example using Flex containers, and then we're going to walk through an example how to do it without Flex containers, which I think is much, much simpler. So we'll let Madison do the heavy lifting here as I supervise.
So what kind of this started as, and I got to get to the right screen here, is there's a cool new thing inside of Barnum PT called Funnelwind. And I got on James Cran's kind of made a little joke. I was being half sarcastic and half real. I'm like, don't tell people about this. Keep it to ourselves.
About Funnelwind? Yeah, don't tell anybody.
Don't tell anybody. And really, it's a really cool way for you to actually take HTML code. I'm not going to tell you how I'm using it, but the problem with Funnelwind, and this is just kind of, I think because it's just simply the thing with a lot of websites, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, Dan, is that the structure of a website is technically slightly different than how ClickFunnels uses columns and rows and sections, in the fact of you can split divs inside of a HTML website slightly different than you did inside ClickFunnels. And so what I believe Funnelwind is doing here, because I created one of these and Tony said, what's up with all the flexes? I was thinking about it. I'm like, I think it's just the nature of the code going from HTML to ClickFunnels. So,
well, let me just stop you on that, because I've created a number of things using Funnelwind, and not one of the pages has any flex on it. So I'm not really sure how you got a bunch of flex on yours and I didn't get any on mine.
I was thinking about it. I'm like, I should see if the page I have pulled up actually has flex on it or not.
You probably should. Yeah. So let's take a look at that.
So the reason that I understood Flex is from building mobile apps with React Native, and they use a thing called Flexbox. And I'm going to share my screen here.
Well, now technically, Flexbox is what it is known as in CSS. So that's what it is. Just like you have your CSS box model, this is basically the Flexbox or Flexbox model.
Okay, and
I don't know if they use the word model with that or not, but eventually Madison will figure out. We're going to keep riffing here until Madison figures out how to share her screen, because apparently it changed from last week.
This is worse. This is where it's even worse, Dan. It's even worse. This is a mess. So I accidentally wiped my whole computer because it was running slow. But you know what permissions I didn't grant yet? Oh, mayonnaise to the tuna fish here. Let me open a different. No, shit, that's not going to work either. So
you wiped out your entire computer because it was running slow?
Yeah, it had something on it that, plus it needed to be wiped anyway. It needed to be restarted and wiped and all that. But you know what? I have not granted the permissions for Chrome to share. So
you need me to share my screen?
You're going to have to share your screen.
Yeah, okay. All right. All right. Well,
grant permissions.
Is really starting off really good here. So,
approve permissions, and it said quit and restart. Now, that's not going to work.
Okay, I think I am sharing a screen here. There we go.
Yes,
so now we'll get down to business, maybe. So this was not what we were planning on showing, but this is a page that I made using Funnelwind in Barnum PT. I think I might have showed this last week. I don't recall. Now you're going to see in here there are some images, and these images are floating up and down and stuff. But what happened when I created this, because I was using the MCP server inside of Claude, or I was using, let's be accurate here. I had the MCP server in Claude attached to a certain workspace. Turns out it wasn't the same workspace as this one here. And so the images are actually in a different workspace. Now, originally I was able to pull it up, but then I shared this, this funnel here from one workspace to another workspace, because I was consolidating all of my test funnels into one singular workspace. And in the process of that, it lost the link, and I haven't gone and found the images yet. But trust me, there are images in here. They're cute little cartoon characters. One day I actually was able to create some identical to Disney characters on my page, and that was a day where Claude was broken. They were having all kinds of issues with Claude, and apparently they turned off all the safeguards. And so I got these beautiful Disney characters, which I deleted because I was like, I don't want to accidentally decide to put one of these onto a page that I then shoot a video and then put it up on YouTube, and then I get a takedown notice or something. I'll just save myself, because I've had that happen before, where I'm like looking at a page, not thinking about it, shooting a video about the page, and I put it up and I get a takedown notice. In particular, it was from a large investment firm, sends me a takedown notice because I had a picture of their founder. It's the guy you see on TV. Oh, Fisher Investments is who it was. And they sent me a takedown notice because I had a picture of their guy Fisher on my video. And I was like, oh, didn't even think about it. So just be aware of that. Don't use any copywritten material in a YouTube video. You'll get a note from their attorneys. But in here, as you can see, there is no flex. And that was one of the things I was actually happy about when I got this. And another thing is, I mean, the images were pretty good. Again, these are all created using the MCP server. And so I don't know why the background images came through, but the other images didn't. So like I said, they're all somewhere else. But the text in here is really quite good. It tells a very good story, especially because I didn't give it that big of a prompt to do it. I gave it a style more than anything else. But there are some issues in here, like right here, this text is way too small. So, I mean, these things don't come out perfect, is what my point is here. So, it's only a font size of 13 pixels. So you want that to be a little bit bigger so you could actually read it. Then the other thing is like this color. There's no way that this is going to pass on. Let's go over here. Let's just take a look at this and we'll inspect this. There's no way that that's going to pass ADA requirements for readability on that text. So let's find the text itself here. Yeah, it probably won't do it. Let me see. Is this? No, that's still here. Here's the text color. All right, so we come in here to the text color in case somebody's never seen this before. We come in here and we come down here and we click on contrast ratio. And now it says pick a background color. So we're going to grab our little eyeball there and we're going to come over and we're going to pick that background color. And you can see this is way outside of the two lines. Where you want to be is inside of those two lines. So if we move this up, you're going to see down here at the bottom, we got bad down there at the bottom. So if we pull this up, we get up there far enough, and boom, now we got 2 check marks. That's where you want to be as far as the color goes. And let me change this so you can actually see it. So now it's legible enough so somebody who with vision problems can read it, and therefore you're going to pass the ADA requirements on that. So just be aware when you get something that comes in from any kind of AI builder, you got to pick through this entire thing. Don't think for 1 second that it's going to be fine the way it is. And like here, this text right here was supposed to be, I forget what it's supposed to be, but it's not. It doesn't show on here, Creepster, but it doesn't show on the page properly. Even though it says that it's supposed to be Creepster, it's still not showing on the page properly. So what I found is if you come in here and you just click on that and you come over here and you just reset this, and we'll just go Creepster right there. Now you click on it. Now it goes in. Why does it do that? I have no idea, especially because it's set to be in there. But that's one of those, little things where you're taking one. I mean, think about what we did to build this thing. I had to use Claude. I had to use an MCP server, whatever the hell that thing is. I don't know. Then we had to take Winter's code that you need for funnel winds, put all that together. It spits out additional HTML, which then we have to dump into Barnum PT, which then builds the page tree inside of ClickFunnels and eventually spits this out on the page. So there's a lot of steps along the way for little tiny things to go haywire. But for the most part, when I built this thing, I was like, okay, this baby is 90% of the way there. Yeah. I'm going to have to make some tweaks. Obviously, we're not going to really use this one. It was a joke. We're not, I had to change a little bit of the text down here. I don't think the candy canes really fit into our Halloween theme here. So, and I don't know why they're pointing, at least I'm assuming there's a candy cane. It's kind of pointing up the wrong way. Yeah, it says candy cane right over here. I mean, this is Halloween theme. So can we get some skulls in here maybe? There. Ooh, see, now that's scary. Now, do they have bats in here, I wonder? I don't think that's a bat. What is that? Battalion, Wolfpack Battalion. Nope, that is not a bat. Either way, you get the idea here. So we'll just put our skulls back in there because they're cooler.
So have you found in any of your time using Funnelwind that it has picked up the style guide?
Winter put in something new last week regarding style guides, and I have not had a chance to take a look at that yet. And in fact, right now, I don't even have Barnum PT turned on because I will tell everybody this is something I've discovered the other day. I don't know if it goes across the board, but if you are having any issues with things not appearing on the screen the way they should, especially like images, go in and turn all of your extensions off or open ClickFunnels incognito. So generally speaking, I say use Chrome browser whenever you're working on ClickFunnels and then open it incognito, but make sure that your settings for your extensions says to turn off. Let me see if I can just pull that up here real quick. Manage extensions. Where do I go to from here? Let me see. Oh, okay. I just did that. Remove extension, view in Chrome, extension options. Let's try this here. Is that just that extension? What am I looking for here? Somewhere in here. Oh, allow an incognito. Okay. So I guess you're going to have to go into every single one of your extensions and set it so that it does not run incognito. Because whenever you're testing anything, you don't want any of your Chrome extensions running. Unless you absolutely have to have it incognito or something. But again, you shouldn't have to if you're testing something inside of ClickFunnels. So always turn off all of your extensions incognito. And if you're in your regular account and you're having issues, especially with images, so let's just find this here. This should be, let me find an image. So here we have an image, and we go in here. If you come into your images and all the images are all squished down and they have like the little squares in the background, but it's only like one row of squares across. If you happen to see that for some reason, go in and turn all of your extensions off. Now, what I also found yesterday when I was testing this is I went in, I turned all my extensions off, and then I turned some of them back on, and the problem did not come back. Then I turned all of them back on.
And the problem came back?
No, it did not come back.
Oh.
So that was a curious thing, is by turning them all off and then turning them all back on, did I reset something? Could be. Don't know. But pretty much determined the problem was ClickFunnels was interfering with, or an extension was interfering with some of the stuff inside of ClickFunnels. And there was a gal who was on the Open Office Hours call yesterday who was having an issue with something. And that's what I asked her to do. I did not get any results back from her yet. I said, and she had like 30 different extensions running. And, you know, I don't know why you would need all that, but she did. And so turn everything off, see if you can get it to work, and then turn on the ones that you absolutely need and see if it causes a problem. And if it does, note which ones you think it is and get that to the devs, because they need to figure out what is interfering and causing ClickFunnels to break. And so, you know, I'm sure there's some way they could figure out to work around that, those kind of issues. So just a little hint there. Again, nothing we were planning on going into this morning, but we did. Now, we should probably get around to talking about some Flex. So let me.
So I think it's just, I think it's just kind of like, it depends on which one of the, just simply how it is created in terms of if it has a ton of Flex in it. And so that would be really the only situation is, say you implemented a funnel win code and then you have, a lot of Flex in it. Now you're like, what the heck do I do with this Flex?
Well, in the case of what I got out of Funnel Win, it didn't. But I will say that there are a lot of the templates, you get from ClickFunnels. So let's say we just come in here and we say, like, we want to add a new section, and we come in and we say, okay, we're going to scroll down here, start looking for a new section to put in. A lot of these in here might have Flex inside of them. Let me see something that would definitely be a culprit for something like that. Okay, let's try this one here. Let's see if there's any Flex in here. Yep. Okay, so here's a bunch of Flex inside of this one. And for some reason, guys who build this for ClickFunnels, they've been using a lot of Flex on this stuff. And the truth is, it's really not necessary. So here you have, let's just kind of break this down. Let's go all the way in case you guys don't know how to use the breadcrumbs. We come down here to the bottom, and I clicked on this image. So that's inside of a Flex container, which you can see as I highlight over the screen. And that's inside of a Flex container right there. Why is it not? Okay, there it is. So we got the outer Flex container and we have an inner Flex container. And then we have the column, of course, that everything is sitting inside of, which is not highlighting, or the row. Okay, there's a row. Column, I guess, doesn't highlight. And then we got the row. And of course, as you come back here, you can click on each of these. So we can look here at this Flex container. And what you're going to see over here is we're saying each one. So this Flex container is just, okay, it's right here. So this Flex container is just this column here, essentially. Okay. And we're saying here to make it 35%. Well, you have to do that in order to only take up just so much space on the row. Now, as I think about that, because we're saying flex direction, okay, flex direction would be this way. So everything inside of it, so we're looking at right here, this flex direction of column right there. Everything inside of it we want to stack up as a column. Well, there's no reason to do that because it's going to natively stack as a column anyway. So I don't need a flex container to tell it to stack as a column because it's going to do that, because that's how HTML works, is they stack on top of each other. Now here we're saying justification to the top. Again, that's how it would work natively in HTML without any flex involved anyway. And then what do we have here? Justification, align left and right, lined in the center. Well, you can set that inside ClickFunnels. Yep. So that's not needed. We got a gap of 0. They pull the gap out completely. And we're saying here, no wrap. Now, here's something I said earlier about the one of the issues that they have in here still, one of the bugs as far as I'm concerned, and it is right here. When you come in here, this is always set to wrap. The default setting for a Flex container is no wrap. See, all of this here can be done using CSS. And in 1.0, that's how we built it. We did all of it using CSS. In here, they put it in. And at first, it was great until it became unneeded. And so here is set to no wrap. Okay, that's what it should be set to. And I see most of the time where people struggle with the Flex containers is they leave this here set to wrap. And they can't figure out why they can't get their thing to work right. And well, it's because the default is no wrap, and you normally leave it at no wrap. No wrap means take, in this case here, we got 3 columns across. It says, keep those 3 columns on the same row no matter what. Do not allow them to wrap down to the next row. So the next thing I have to start questioning here is the fact that they used 35% here. Do they need to use that 35%? So let's come over here. I just want to check something. We're going to come here to Flex Container. And admittedly, this is 100% on the fly because I never looked at this thing before. I thought Madison was going to be sharing today, but apparently not. And so we're going to come in here.
This is how I roll now. I just trick him.
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing.
Good news. We're live in the ClickFunnels group.
Hey, there we go. Hi, ClickFunnels people. But here's the other thing. I'm looking at this going, wait a second. 35%, 35 plus 35 plus 35, or 35 times 3, however you want to do it, is 105%. So that number shouldn't be working. And in fact, let's see what happens if I change it. What happened? Oh, it only got just so big.
So the way that I do that is up there. You see that purple box where it says Flex Basis?
Oh,
where it says set to auto?
Do not ever touch that. Do not touch that. Ever. Do not ever touch that. No. I'll tell you, in all the years that I have read code, I have never seen anybody use Flex Grow, Shrink, or Basis.
Well, if you change it to a percentage, that's how it works.
No, don't touch it. It's evil. It's evil. It'll make you grow hair on your hands and things. You don't want that. But here, so let's we're going to come in here, and do you notice what's happening here as I change this out to 100%? Nothing. Looks the same, doesn't it? Because it wasn't needed. Because here's what you got here. So I open up this other Flex container. So now we got the outer Flex container. So we had the 3 Flex containers in the middle. Then we have an outer Flex container. Well, look, Flex container is set to 100%. It's also set to, see the little arrow pointing this way here, the direction. It's set to row. It's also set to no wrap. Guess what that does? It flexes the width of the elements inside of it, And because we set it as row and no wrap, it sets them all side by each.
Yeah.
So if I change this now to wrap, oh, look what happened. It got ginormous because I set this flex column to 100%. So now the other thing is, because of the fact that that other was set. No, I guess you could do this. Okay, actually, too bad I changed that. Well, actually, I can pull in another version of this. What I was going to say is,
Well, why don't you just hit the little undo button?
oh, hey, we heard through the grapevine that if you hit the undo button, here, check this out. Oh, okay, I showed there for a second. Okay, here, let me close this. I'll do it again. Okay, do you see right there? They should leave that on a little bit longer. But did you see the big green line that went around that?
There is still kind of a green line around it at the top.
No, I put that up there.
Oh, you
that's
put that in. Okay.
That's how around the section above there. I was doing something before I dropped this one in there. But see, okay, do you see that green line there? That is showing that changed. So let me see here. Okay. The way I saw it when James put it in the group, I thought it was going to be like more of a red color or something. Okay, so maybe we're back to where we, let me see here. Okay. All right, let's go back into this flex column here, we can call it. Okay, that's set at 35%. Now, what I'm going to have to check to see is what is this set as for mobile? And of course, what's really super cool here in ClickFunnels in the last 6 months or so is that we can just do this little drop down, click on that icon. See, now it's set at 100%. So they're good to go there. But again, they didn't need to set it like this because it was unnecessary. Okay, because we want it 100% in both cases. So whether it's desktop or whether it's mobile, it should be 100%, and then you let the outer flex container decide, if I can find the thing here, you let the outer flex container then flex the items, flex the size of the items inside of it. And another reason why we used flex in 1.0 versus here, where it's no longer necessary really, is it helped with mobile, helped to stack things with mobile. And you could say, row reverse. So you'd have, if you were like doing a serpentine thing where you got text and then image, and then the next line is image and then text, and you want it to go back and forth, you could set them all up exactly the same. And then on the second one, you just say row reverse and it would flip it around. So that's what would be the equivalent of us doing this here. Clicking that right there, that's row reverse. So flip them around from left to right. And then here we're stacking them, and here we're stacking them in the opposite direction. So right there. So that's how that works. And if you also notice, as you click on these here, then the icons in the 2 rows below it change because we're changing direction. And so instead of being, left to right, in one situation, that becomes top to bottom when you go from a column to a row. So again, it's all kind of confusing. And even the guys who are building this stuff for Russell are confused on how these things work. And so in a case like this, there's no reason to have this be a flex container, as I said earlier, because everything's going to line up natively on its own. The only reason you would use a flex container for a column like this is if you wanted to change the spacing between the elements, and we don't have enough room on here to do that. Well, in fact, let's do this. And I'm not even sure if this is going to work because this column, see, that's not going to work either because those columns, see, here's another nice thing that's built into ClickFunnels is I can tell all those columns, if I'm in a row, I can tell all those columns to be the same height.
Wouldn't it work if you made the grow 1, the flex grow?
It's evil. It's evil. Or we could just use stretch.
Okay, that works too.
Yeah, see? And again, interesting thing. What is the default? What is the default in Flex for line items? I already said it. Stretch.
Mm.
Stretch is always the default for whether it's justification or line items. So let's see if we turn this off here. See, it stayed on stretch because they had it set right there. But if I turn off and we clear this out, then it goes back to stretch. So that's always the default. Now, in this case here, let me see here. Okay, so that's this. So that was the outer flex container. And it's always difficult. Whenever I do flex containers, if I do them, or even if I do what we're going to show you here in a minute, the nested rows, I always put boxes around everything so I can see the different layers as I'm building it out. Then when I get done, I go take off the borders, and then it looks just fine. But now we are in this column. It's a flex container, but it is also set as a column because we can go like that and do side by each, which doesn't make any sense in a column. So we're going to do up and down, and we can change though now the justification on this. And see, we still don't have enough room in here. Let me get rid of some more stuff. See if I can get this to work. Why is everything? Oh, I see. Okay. Well, that's still. Hang on. Well, the elements they had in there weren't really going to work for what I wanted to show. Okay, so now we got a bunch of elements inside of here, and there should be an image at the top, right?
Yep.
And then what is this here?
It's just got a lot of negative margin on it, or padding on it.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to come here into this element, and so now we can click on this and see now it brought everything down to the center. So this is where I'm saying the only reason I would do a flex container on a row like this, or sorry, on a column like this, would be if I wanted to justify it some way other than up at the top like that. So here we can justify in the center, we do it down to the bottom, and then here we got different spacings that we can do. And if you hover over this long enough, it tells you which each one of them is. They each all have a name because they had to be called originally when this was built just in CSS. So here's space between. So it gives you the equal amount of space between. This one is, come on. There's space around, there's space between, and then there is, I forget what. So this one here must be space around. Yeah, so space around. So they have the equal amount of spacing around them, but that also means it's a double amount of spacing between them. Okay, so between
space around evenly spaces items across the containers cross axis. Does that make sense?
Well, the cross. See, here's what I said before: is how the icons change because the cross axis changes.
Yes.
So if you're a row, cross axis is this. If you're a column, the cross axis is up and down.
Yes.
So vertical versus horizontal. And I just did that backwards, but that's close enough. So this one is space around. Here is space between. So now the space between each of them is identical without any space on the very top and bottom. And then, like I said, I forget what the third one is here. And if it would show me as I hover on it, it'd be nice, but it's not going to because I forget what that one is called. So that's a use case where you would want to use flex. So let's say that you had different content in each of these columns and you wanted them to line up better. Then you could do that. Probably most likely then at that point, you would just kind of center justify them and it'd be like this, and each one would have a little bit more content in there and they would line up. And then we already showed how with flex use stretch and it makes all three of these columns the same height. Okay. Well, so we did that. And so this is your typical pricing kind of thing. Well, somebody had a question in the Funnel Builder certification group the other day, how to build this exact same thing without using flex. Now, I don't know if they actually asked for not flex, but that's the way I built this out for them. And so all I did is, and I'll just rebuild it here. So I got a section and we have ourselves a 3-column row. So we're going to drop in a 3-column row right there. And just on this 3-column row, let's just put a border around it so we can see where this guy is here. We'll make that blue. And then inside of here, look what happened. because I grabbed what was, and I'll show you how we do that again. Here, let's come in here. We're going to add a new element here. All you do is you come up here and you say nested rows.
So
I like to,
my frustration with this is it adds, like Flex, it adds the padding to the section and the padding to the row again.
Right.
So you do have to go ahead and change that.
Yeah. And sometimes you need it in there and sometimes you don't want it in there. So, what are they going to do? I mean, it'd be like being a mind reader to know whether you want it or not. The only real gripe I have about the spacing that they have in these things is all the images and all the videos always come in with 15 pixels of padding at the top, or margin at the top. And it's like, why do you have that? That one I don't get. But as you see here, we now have this section inside of that row, and then we have another row inside of that. So let's just make that green, and then inside of here we then have another row. Now what this allows is for all kinds of options as far as layering. So the first thing we can do is let's make this here much bigger.
And I think really where this comes into play is you already have a 2-column row, and now you want to split that one column. And say you have a photo on one side, and now you want to split that column to then have two columns of text inside of it, for example. Or you want your order form next to your, like this. Yes.
Yeah. So all I did right there is I just came over here and I clicked on add a column. And so now we have another column here, and they go, oh, wait, what I want to do is I want a video on the left. So I can come in here, I can click on this set of arrows, and I just flip-flop that. Now I can come over here, drop in, it's like I said, and let's drop in a video or something. And now I got a 3-column row over here still to be able to do whatever I want. Well, that's a little too wide. Let's go a little more narrow on this. So this may not be a header section. This is partway down the page. And we got video explaining whatever our 3 columns worth of information are over here. But so far we haven't used any flex, and there's no reason to use any flex. So I can come in here and I can put in, a bunch of headlines and stuff, and and you're going to see everything became the same height. So now let's do this. We're going to come into this column, and we're going to put a border around that column, and we're going to come into this column and put a border around that column, and we're going to come into this column, if I can open it up, and we're going to put a border around it. Now you see what happened here. All 3 of them the same height. Automatically, all 3 of them are the same height because there's a setting in here, column height full. If we do column height auto, now they're not the same height anymore. So do you want them to be the same height, or do you want them not to be the same height? It's up to you. So in our case here, we're going to say we want them all to be the same height. Well, then the same thing goes for a column, as a row, as what we saw in Flex, is that you can come into the row here now, and we can say, we're going to come here to advanced, and we're going to say, how do we want this to display on mobile? Do we want it to keep it up and down, or do we want it to be up and down, which is the default setting here, meaning the video would stack on top of this side over here, or do we want them to be side by each? Well, now, it's a lot easier if we go into mobile view to see what this is going to look like. So we come here, and so this is the default, which would make sense. You want it like that. You could do it like this. We could do reverse if you wanted to. So I said before, you can do reverse. So when you're doing your serpentine thing, so you can just come in here, boom. Okay, I want it to be reverse instead of the other way around. So very, very handy thing. I actually had a little something to do with getting these last couple in here. Thank you very much. Yeah, I just said to Rob one day, I said, well, gee, why don't you do that too? And they're like, oh yeah, we probably should. So
yeah, I mean, I have to clone. I've cloned sections and made them mobile only, just because if, say, for example, especially on mobile, you want them just to go to the opt-in or the checkout page, the checkout form, whatever. You don't want the video there.
Well, yeah, in 1.0, we had to do that all the time, where you had to clone, duplicate sections, you had to duplicate images, and so in one place you'd have the image on the top, for desktop, and then for mobile, you either hide it or you put it at the bottom, or you put it into a different column or row or something even. And here it's all done basically with a couple of clicks. It really is. And the same thing down here, because again, we have another row down here embedded inside of that section. So we can come in and we can come here to advanced, and we can say, okay, how do we want that to line up? So we could have them be side by each. We could have it flip-flopped around the other way, or however you want it. Generally speaking, again, you're going to stack them like that. And so, yeah, and as Madison had already mentioned, yeah, you're going to have all kinds of padding in here and stuff. Just go in, remove the padding. Everything will come out fine. So in a case of what somebody wanted on their page here is, let's take a look at what I did. Is in fact, let's go here first, do that, and then see, now here becomes a question, is all of a sudden this one here, okay, I see what I did here. Okay, the outline here I did not have around the I did not have around the border. That's what I had going on there. Okay, so the outline here was only around this lower section. So there's a section inside of here. So let me see, I can't, because I took out all the padding, this always becomes an issue. Excuse me, once you take out all the padding, it's hard to get to some of these elements. So that's where you have to use the breadcrumbs. So we're going to come in here to, okay, click on there. Okay, so now we have our headline up there at the top. You can see it's being highlighted in orange. And then inside of that, we have a column. Inside of that, we have a row. And then inside of that, we have a section. Okay, now there's no padding around that section at all, but we can put some padding in there. So let's put some padding in. And that's like way too much there. Okay, so now we can see the row inside of here. So here is our row right there. And I will put something around the row where is, oh, I do have a border. Oh, I only have the border at the bottom. Okay, so now we got a border around there. So again, we just put a section inside of this column. So where there's anywhere you can highlight on here and it says add element, whether it's orange or whether it's green, you can do that and you can drop in your new section right there. And so we'll delete that back out. But that's how you can get this layering effect so that it looks like a singular column, but yet you have the top part being this different color. So you can put a header at the top of this, and or in the case of like down here where we have an image, let's just grab this image. We can put that image in here and then have it be proud of the top like that if we want. And I'm off the top of the screen for some reason. Let's push this down. So however you want to do it, I just, again, I think that this is much easier, much more intuitive. And because now if we were to go and inspect this page, I will take a look at it without saving it because I don't want to save it because of a whole bunch of reasons. But now if we, oh, that was something else I dropped in there. That's not the part that we had. Well, like I said, I haven't saved anything. If we come in here now, we're going to see that we have a row. And right here, it says that it's flex. So anything you put in there technically will be flexed. Just like we had in the columns on our other example over here, everything inside of these columns is flexed. So you could actually use any flex properties you wanted to. And that's why you can come into a row like this and come over here and use the flex properties because they're already built in because flex has been applied to the row. Here's an interesting thing we found the other day. Actually, I will give credit to Miguel Castillo over at Funnel Builder Certification for actually having figured this out. How he accidentally stumbled upon it, we're not quite sure at this point. But if you have
that's a great compliment for Miguel.
It was, and he knows that he accidentally stumbled upon this somehow, and he doesn't know why it works, and I can't figure out why it works either. To be honest with you, if you want to make a column sticky, the problem is because this is set to flex, it doesn't want to make it sticky.
Explain
the
sticky
normal
for the people.
define sticky.
Yes.
Define sticky as if you scroll at some point here, this is going to stop moving. Everything below it will continue to move. So let's come over here, and actually we can just do this right here in the code. What time is it? It's 9:48. We got some time left here. Wait, where am I? I'm not in the right. I'm in that column. Hang on. Got to close this up. Got to find the right column. Okay. So here's the column that we are in. And let's say we want this column to be sticky. So we're going to say position of sticky, and then we're just going to say top of 10 pixels. Okay, that's not going to work. I hit the wrong key there. Okay, 10 pixels. What should happen is this column over here should scroll up to the point where it is 10 pixels from the top, which is not much further than that down right now, and then it should stop moving. But it doesn't do it because of this flex. So if I come in here and I turn this flex off, now, well, it works for a second, but what happens is this other row then comes in and pushes it out. Okay, so what we can do is let's come into this section here, and let's put in padding. Let's go padding bottom of 200. Okay, so now, well, it should be working. It stops for a little bit, then it gets, oh, I see it. It's still stuck. It's still stuck inside of that row. Okay, so let's make that. So it has to have room to be able to hang out. But now that I think about it, is that even right? But, well, okay, it's still not, okay, it's, oh, I know why, because we got sections inside of sections here. So forget about that. But you get the idea. As soon as I turned off the flex on the row, then it started to work, at least for a little bit, but now it's running into space constraints. And so that becomes a problem. And I forget, Miguel actually came up with 2 different ways to fix it. And let me see if I have that stuck in my code at all. Now, let's see. None of my code things are working anymore either. Show code. Did I leave that in here? No, I didn't. Already had sticky column set to that. Oh, that doesn't help that I have that set in there twice, probably. Either way, the point of the matter is, because, yeah, here, sticky column. Oh, okay, here. So, yeah, it was already set in there. So I had that in the CSS. But what he did is he did a content fit in one example and something else on another one, and both of them worked. So there is still a way that you can create a sticky column, even though it is a Flex container. And when we were testing it the other day, I wasn't running into the issue that I'm running into right now with the height issues and all that. So whatever it did is it overrode it. And maybe it's because we also put in a Z index. That could be Z index. See if that changes anything. No, it just pushes it above the bar at the top. So either way, that's that's what we had. So either way, the point of this whole thing, forget the sticky column. Point of it is we showed you a bunch of different ways to work with Flex down here at the bottom. But also my suggestion would be, whenever possible, just use the sections as elements, use Flex sparingly, because Flex is just a lot harder to work with when you could just drop this in here. Now, if we go back to, remember originally they had each one of these Flex columns here set at 35%. And we said, well, they don't need to be that. We can just come in here and set these all to 100, because what Flex will natively do is to share the space. So now they're all back to exactly the same size, and they're all going to share the space equally because they're inside of this other Flex container. So any Flex containers inside of Flex containers will share the space equally unless told to do otherwise. Because what we could do here is, let's say we want one of the columns to be 11%, and we want another column here to be, well, let's leave that one at 100. Well, no, let's do this one here at like 40%. So now we're up to 51%, which now this one here should be 49%. So if I pull this down, as soon as we get down, well, yeah, more than I thought. But either way, so
well,
you can do,
because if you leave it at 100, it will then take up whatever space. So, right. So if you adjust the other ones, now you change your mind and you've adjusted this one back down or up. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, so you can do that kind of stuff. There's also, Madison talking before, and that's why I'm saying stay away from this stuff, is you can do stuff up here. You got flex basis, if I'm not mistaken. That's where you set it. You can say like one, set one is 1, and then one is the next one is 2, and that means the 2 will be twice the size of the one that was set at 1.
You can also use the percentages with it too.
Okay.
So basically the same thing you did with the percentages with the width, you can do up there, but like yours grew when it had more space available. That's why you have to set the grow and the shrink both to 1.
Yeah. So, but I would say again, stay away from that, because up here, anywhere else, let's say we got our columns here, all you got to do is change these columns. And again, we're creating sales pages here. We are not creating works of art or anything else. So you just change this width. You've got 12 different options on the width of a column, and 99% of the time you're going to have all 3 of them be the same width anyway, because we normally use them for pricing items, showing the different options that people have, that kind of stuff. So rarely are you going to have anything. The only time you run into a problem is if you decide you need 5 columns. But guess what? You know how you make 5 columns? You come in here. Now I got 5 columns. There you go. There's your 5 columns. There's another way. I guess I think we talked in the past about making 5 columns. Well, now we got 5 columns, so get over your bad self. There it is. There's five columns right there. So you make 3 on one side and 2 on the other. However you want to do it, you can get yourself 5 columns without even using any kind of CSS code to put in. All you do there is you just set each column to 20% of the width. Yeah. But again, that's the same thing that essentially going on down here. Is this flex column is X number of pixels wide. It says, okay, I got 3 more elements inside of here, divide it by 3, and subtract out
for you, basically.
Yeah, and subtract out the padding in between, or the gap in between, because you're going to see here all these red dotted lines in here. That's showing me the structure of the flex itself. So we can come in here and click on this, and we're going to see here we got a gap of 1.5. Well, if I take this down, we can make them all go right up next to each other by taking out the gap, or we can just put that gap right back in there. And again, there's only one setting for gap, because again, depending on the axis that you're on, whether you're horizontal or you're vertical on the axis, that's where it will apply the gap. So again, if we go put it this way, we got a gap in between here of 1.29 at this point. Now we got a gap of 0.
And so the photo looks that way because it has negative padding at the top of it. So if it normally would be just within that box, and there would be that gap. Yeah.
So yeah, now we got a positive 100 right there. And so, yeah. So, and again, I mean, that's one of those issues though, and which is really nice in 2.0 here now, is so we stack them up on mobile. Well, on mobile, we don't want this thing sticking over the top of the thing above it, because when we come back in here, we had basically negative 100 pixels. Yeah. It's up, pushing up over the top of this one here. So we can come in and we can set this, and we can say, okay, on mobile, we want this to have 100 positive, and on desktop, we want it to have 100 negative.
And when you flip over to the mobile at the top, all those settings switch automatically. So like Dan's clicking the drop down from desktop to mobile inside of each element. If you do that at the top and switch to your mobile view, those will automatically now apply the padding and spacing and stuff.
Yeah, so there's the margin here. So on mobile, for our example here, I said give me 100 positive margin at the top, but on desktop, give me 100 negative at the top. Is that the right one? Where'd I go? There we go.
Yep.
100 negative at the top, so it's pushing out the top. So, and again, super nice inside of ClickFunnels now. Click. I mean, in the past, as Madison was saying earlier, we had to clone sections, we had to clone images, set one to desktop, set one, and then you had to go in. I mean, here, you saw how quickly I changed that. It's just click, boom. Where the heck is it? Here it is. Okay, that's down too far. Let's take this back to 0. And okay, so there. And that's what
those
it's going to look like.
settings do not affect desktop. Right. Those settings do not affect it on the desktop.
Yeah, that's why I was flipping back and forth there. But now let's say we still want it to be proud like this. Well, okay, you can do that. But then, so what you do is you come into this flex column or the column that you built normally. And in this case here, then we just give that more top. And you see here, we're on mobile only. Whereas when we go back to desktop, it's going to have not moved. Yeah. So again, super nice features that are being built into ClickFunnels. And again, if you guys missed it, we're showing here, if I delete out this element, and then, because I think this will be a much clearer example here, delete out the element, and then I come back in and I hit the back button here to undo that. But, okay. Hang on a second. It delayed me for a second there. Okay, so let's delete it out again. Now we'll hit the undo button, and there you go. Oh, so that, I see.
It's colored based on what it undid.
Well, yeah, no, it just came in as orange because it's an element. And what we were doing before were flex containers, must have been flex containers. Oh. And so I was deleting out flex containers, and that's why they were coming in that light green color. That's what we were seeing earlier. Okay, yeah. So that would make sense. So I can delete out here this flex container right there. And you see now, because I took out that flex container, now these two are equal sizes as well. So that is the power of flex. But again, for the most part, you can do that with regular rows and columns and stuff. But now if we click our undo button there, boom, comes in, and it was a light green color signifying what type of element it was. So that, again, pretty smart by the guys to associate it with the color. The only thing I would say is leave the color there a little bit longer, a couple more seconds, just especially if I got to hunt for it on the page. Well, that becomes another question. So let's delete this out, and let's come down here. And if I click on this, see, it didn't bring me there. So that'd be another thing for the devs. If you guys are watching, it'd be nice if when I did that, it scrolled me back up here so I could see that come back in place and then leave that color around it for like 5 seconds. That way, definitely more of the visual impact on what we're seeing on the page at that point. But that's it. But it is 10:01, so we should probably stop yapping here. 10:01 Pacific time, of course.
Yes.
In case somebody's in Australia and they're confused. So that was it. So we went down a bunch of rabbit holes today, including talking about flex and talking about how to do the exact same thing with the native elements and all kinds of cool tricks as far as the mobile view versus desktop view and all the cool things that they've built into ClickFunnels in the last 6 months or so. Including, I still think one of the coolest ones is where you can just come in here to any column, you can delete it, and then we can delete another one here, and then we're going to add a new one in. I mean, that's just so cool. That is just so cool. That saves so much work versus having to come down here. You got to add a row. Okay, I need a 4-column row, and then I got all this stuff in here, so I got to take all this stuff and I got to drag it down. And
you're like, oh shoot, one more column.
Yeah.
Crap, I need 2 columns.
Then whoever you're designing it for, it comes along and goes, I really want 5 columns instead of 4. Yeah, well, you wanted 3 the first time. That's an extra work order.
Folks, is the beauty of going to Dan Havey's agency. You get great customer support like that.
That's why I rarely build for other people. Rarely do I build for other people. So
All right.
on that note,
before we get
should
fired or canceled again,
yeah,
we'll see everybody next week. This is a continuous experiment about how many times can we get into the ClickFunnels group, and I think we might be on a path to figuring it out, but who knows? So if not, we'll always share it back into the group. So
we'll find out next week.
Yes,
Stay
we
tuned.
will. Yes, come and find out with us. Yes. All right.
All right.
See you guys
See y'all
next week.